Did you know that Space Mountain looked like this for a while? Want to know why? Stick with us to find out. Hello everyone, I'm Parker, your host, and I'm here to talk to you about Tomorrowland 2055. But to do so, we need to go back to 1955 when Tomorrowland opened. Tomorrowland promised a step into the future, with predictions of constructed things to come. But this is a hard promise to keep when the future is catching up with you every few years. So of course, after a while, Tomorrowland needed a few refurbishments. The first big expansion and renovation was on 1967 and was called Tomorrowland on the Move. It gave guests some new and exciting attractions like the People Mover, Adventures Through Inner Space, Carousel of Progress, and Circle Vision 360. This renovation changed it all. It made Tomorrowland an exciting and innovative space in the park once again. But, as we said earlier, tomorrow became today again. Flying to the moon became outdated after 1969 when the moon landing became a real thing. So the next step was Mars, and Rocket to the Moon became Mission to Mars, so a new renovation was in order. The sleek, white, space-age aesthetic of Tomorrowland became completely outdated and retro. The new image of the future was changed from those bright, optimistic cities to a grimy, industrial, dark look. So Disney could either give in to the idea of this dark vision of the future or could somehow come with an idea that would make Tomorrowland timeless. How would they do this? Well, in comes Disney legend and Imagineer Tony Baxter. Almost every other modern Disney park's classics have come from the mind of this genius. Think Splash Mountain, Indiana Jones Adventure, Big Thunder Mountain, and much more. Baxter was also an instrumental piece in putting together Euro Disney. He was assigned to be the lead designer and he had some amazing ideas. And one of those ideas was Discoveryland. Discoveryland is kind of like Disneyland Paris's Tomorrowland. It is still focused on the future, but why doesn't it become outdated like the Tomorrowlands in other Disney parks? Well, for starters, Baxter designed a land that was not based on accurately predicting the future. Instead, Discoveryland is a vision of what the future would look like in the past. Baxter imagined how Jules Verne or H.G. Wells would imagine the future. They wouldn't have imagined the future in the space-age style of Tomorrowland, they would rather have imagined a gold and bronze steampunk-like future. This land is timeless because it is a vision of the future rooted in the past, and it can never come true, so it would never need updating. And that was exactly what Tomorrowland needed. So the reimagining of Tomorrowland began, with Baxter on board to design it. And here's where the story of Tomorrowland 2055 begins. The concept was pretty simple. It would be set on Disneyland's 100th birthday, so that's where 2055 came from. And things have really changed. It would become an intergalactic alien spaceport, a stop for any extraterrestrial visitors that came to Earth and any human that wanted to visit space. Here, people and aliens live and work in harmony. The land is alight with neon shimmering off of metal and crystals. And of course, Tomorrowland would keep some of the old attractions like Space Mountain and Star Tours. Space Mountain would have some slight changes so it could be themed more consistently with the rest of the land's continuity as an Earth base for a space station. The Circle Vision Theater would now be host to a new animatronic show called The Timekeeper, in which a scientist played by Robin Williams sends his robotic assistant back in time to collect the story of civilization. The empty Carousel Theater, where America Sings used to be, would be redesigned to resemble a landed alien spacecraft that belonged to P.T. Quantum. Walking into it, you'd be welcomed into Plek 2's Intergalactic Review, where we would be introduced to a lovable cast of intergalactic creatures. And next door, in the theater Mission to Mars used to be, Imagineers planned something a lot less family-friendly. Lost Legend, extraterrestrial alien encounter would debut in Tomorrowland 2055. The ride would feature an alien race that was drawn to Tomorrowland from the planet XS. they brought a groundbreaking teleportation tube with them. But of course, things go wrong when a horrifying alien gets teleported into the chamber and breaks loose. This would have been a terrifying PG-13 attraction, and Imagineers wanted to debut it in Disneyland because Disneyland already had other PG-13 attractions like Indiana Jones Adventure and Star Tours, so Alien Encounter would feel right at home. But a special final touch is missing. Main Street Electrical Parade was ending after its 24-year run, and Disneyland was going to be without a nighttime parade. So Imagineers came up with an idea for a new nighttime show. When it was time for the parade, an announcement would be made through the park saying that a strange object had been spotted over the park. Then fireworks, projections, and sound effects would signal a spacecraft hovering above the park, and it would appear to be landing just outside Main Street, USA. After a few moments, the gates of the backstage would swing open and a race of tall, elegant aliens would walk the parade route with brilliant lights and designs on their floats. This parade would be called Light Keepers. This all sounds amazing, but where did it all go? It was all cancelled. Why? The same reason why so many other Walt Disney Company projects were cancelled in the 90s. Euro Disney. Let's talk about Michael Eisner again. During his time at the Walt Disney Company, Eisner helped the company's film and animation division, and he believed in the limitless potential of the company's theme parks. He supported Splash Mountain, and he partnered with George Lucas to bring Indiana Jones and Star Tours to the parks. But his biggest bet was Euro Disney, and that's when it all went down. Eisner believed in a project that didn't deliver. So this financial disaster made the Walt Disney Company put a stop to all creative projects. And Eisner sadly decided that he would never again bet big on any large-scale projects. Eisner hired Paul Pressler to be president of the Disneyland Resort, and he immediately cut funding to almost every part of the park, from ride maintenance to landscaping. Of course, this included the new Tomorrowland and the Light Keepers. But Tomorrowland was already closed for refurbishment, and guests were already expecting some new changes. Something had to be done, and Imagineers were asked to do as many changes with as little budget as they could. And so Tomorrowland reopened in 1998, and it was pretty disappointing. It was definitely based on Discoveryland, but without the budget to build it from scratch, it ended up being the same old land repainted from bright whites and clean lines to dark browns and coppers. Space Mountain was changed, but only from the outside, because the inside of the mountain remained the same. The Carousel Theater that was supposed to become Plectu's Intergalactic Review became Innovations. The old Mission to Mars building that was supposed to become Alien Encounter became none other than Pizza Port. And while that pizza is delicious, it's no Alien Encounter. But the worst part of all, New Tomorrowland definitely was Rocket Rods. After Disneyland's People Mover closed in 1995, people were expecting a new thrill ride that promised to complete in 3 minutes the course that took the People Mover 16 minutes. The problem was that Imagineers had no budget to change the tracks, and the current tracks were not prepared for the high speed and energy that the Rocket Rods needed. So the ride had to slow down at every turn and then speed up again, and this resulted in a ride that was broken down more than it was functional. After 2 years, this ride was closed, and sadly, the People Mover never came back. And Tomorrowland stayed this way until 2003, when Matt Ouimet became the president of the Disneyland Resort. His top priority, the restoration of Tomorrowland. And so, Tomorrowland began to transition back towards its roots. Space Mountain closed for a 2-year rebuild in which the ride was given a completely new track, new trains, and most importantly, it was repainted and went back to its 70s retro style. Also, the queue for rocket rods became Buzz Lightyear Astro Blasters, and by 2007, the submarine voyage that had been empty for a decade became Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage. With this refurbishment and new attractions, guests were happy again, and Tomorrowland went back to its old glory. So tell us, what do you think about Tomorrowland? Do you like the way it is now, or would you make some changes? Let us know in the comments.